Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail. Hey, everybody, welcome. It is so great to be connecting with all of you. I am so thrilled. I don't even know what to say right now. We had to come on the air because I was talking to Dr. Dan Cohen. And I want to tell you that the Soul Tech Lounge that he has developed and created, I cannot explain what it does, but he's going to do it today. And the reason I cannot explain it, it's just miraculous to me that the neuroscience of how we are learning about emotions and about the mind and about the physicality, what happens in our bodies to all of this, and what Dr. Dan Cohen has created, I am telling you that this is something that if you are living in a stressful environment, this is something you want to bring into your house. For those of you that are practitioners out there in the world, by the end of today's show, you're going to be telling your chiropractor, your naturopath, your massage therapist, all of the above about this. Because when you look at how your body has pain showing up, how illness shows up, and your doctors keep running the blood work, and nobody can get the blood work to get back to normal again. And then you step back and say, what am I going to do differently? And then you do it. And one of those things is have this amazing technology in your presence, like Dr. Dan Cohen has given to me. It is nothing short of a miracle. Today's show, we're not only going to share that, but we're going to talk about what Dr. Dan Cohen has created. You know, this amazing neurologist, inventor, author, his focus on technology is, there's no equivalent that I can think of right now in the world for how easy it could be for you to just literally change and shift the stress. And I'm not talking about it from a textbook. I'm not talking about my own experience, because I will tell you that a year of using the Soul Tech Lounge, the chair, the many, many things that I'm going to be able to describe in the weeks to come, creativity, imagination, things that are happening with the network, how we are able to do this in an amazing way that de-stresses our consciousness and helps our body. I just don't understand how it works. And honestly, I'm not really sure that I ever will. But today's show is all about this. Why stress is important. Dr. Dan Cohen is taking this on. I love it. And I understand how stress has been important for me. Dr. Dan, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Oh, it's great to be here, Pat.
I'm really clear about the fact that I cannot scientifically talk about the Soul Tech Lounge, but I'm not kidding. I don't really understand. If you're a practitioner and you're not really thinking about finding out more about this, I'm not really sure how we can accelerate the rate of change and de-stressing ourselves any better than what you've created. And without a pill, without a potion, you know what I'm talking about? I'm not talking about, so let's talk about stress. And are we at an all-time high right now?
I think so. I mean, I've watched the statistics over the past 30 years, and, it's gotten to the point now where 75 to 90% of doctors' office visits are due to either stress or stress-related illnesses. And so, when you think about, the enormous cost of medicine, and you figure, okay, what's the primary reason for this increase? It's really stress. And I don't think there's anybody that would say that they haven't witnessed in themselves and others an increase in stress over the years. I mean, our society has moved that way in a very significant manner, which is, I think, pretty unfortunate in terms of how little we really understand about it, and how we don't use it for our own benefit, which sounds a little funny.
I love this, Dr. Dan, because somebody asked me the question the other day, and I really waited to talk with you about this. Somebody asked me the question the other day, and they said, well, geez, Pat, stress has always been around. What do you think is the number one reason for the increase? That is such an easy answer for me. Here's my answer. Maybe you can chime in, tell me if I'm right or wrong. We have every minute of every day, and this I did the math on this. We have 100 times more of an opportunity to receive a bit of information that could cause stress than we did 15 years ago.
Oh, I think you're right. And the reason that produces stress is it keeps us focused mentally. So we stay in the intellect. We stay in the brain. And for the vast majority of people on the planet, what that means is they stay ego-based. And ego is the source of stress. Okay, it doesn't. When you're truly more spiritually embodied, and we can get into that, what that really means and how you really know. Then there is no stress. Stress is very binary when it comes to are you just sitting in your head, or are you throughout your body, and literally are you as what you truly are you present throughout your body? Because when you are, you don't have stress. You can't.
But this is really the body of work that you've done. This process of information in our brain. I don't know how that works, but I know you do. And seriously, if we take a look at time, right? And in the scheme of things, Dr. Dan, 20, 30 years is not a lot of time. 10 years is not a lot of time.
Right.
But if you look at the technological changes, even in the past 5 years, it is really unprecedented about what's happening with our brain about this too.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, all you have to do is look at the history of the telephone, to see migration. I mean, that's probably the number one culprit. I mean, a telephone used to be this thing that hung on the wall and would ring every once in a while. And if you remember, if you're as old as we are, there used to be a rotary dial.
I worked for the phone company.
Okay.
I worked for the phone company 25 years. Yes.
Yeah. So you know it well, and now we carry around, what used to be a mammoth computer. We carry it around in our pocket, and that is now our phone. But that is our conduit to all sorts of other things. But they're all things of an intellectual nature. They're all things that cause us to become head-centered.
I got to ask you this question because, prior to meeting you, I had an idea, a little bit of an awareness of the scenario out there. And I want to say this past year, this 2016 year, it could have been, for me, perhaps the most stressful year of my life, but it wasn't. And we're going to talk about why. And as a matter of fact, it's been one of the most creative and innovative years. But it could have gone in the other direction. I want to ask you what the tipping point is for people. What have you discovered? What's that point by which we either have a super creative moment or a super stressed moment?
I wish. This is what's so difficult about answering this question. Because,
yes.
On the one hand, I don't want to go off and discuss metaphysics or philosophy, and I don't want to have an airy-fairy discussion that leads everyone to say, oh, yeah, okay, fine, forget it. Because that's kind of, when I look back over the 20-year development of what we've been working on.
Yeah.
And you say to me, what's the tipping point? When did the insight happen? I mean, I can only tell you a story that for some people they'll get it, but for most people I think they'll go, you got to be kidding. I mean, you're a doctor and you actually believe this. And so let me start by saying that the medical community hasn't been totally forthright as to what we really are, which probably won't surprise anybody.
Right.
So let me start out by saying,
Sure.
as a neurologist, one of the disease states that we took care of back 20, 30 years ago was narcolepsy. And, you've probably heard of that disorder. And now it's classified as a sleep disorder.
That's
and
right.
I think most people know it as excessive daytime sleepiness or sleep attacks, where these people will suddenly just literally have irresistible urge to sleep and fall asleep. They'll also have loss of muscle tone periodically. Usually it's precipitated by strong emotion, and it can be total body or just across a joint. And they'll also have the onset when they go to sleep, unlike most of us that takes 90 minutes before we have our first dream. A narcoleptic will immediately have sleep onset REM sleep, which means they'll immediately go into a dream. And the fourth symptom of narcolepsy, which is really quite interesting, is called sleep paralysis. It's when they wake up out of a dream, their neurologic system doesn't allow them to move right away. If they come right out of a dream, they can't move for about a minute or two. And it's a little switch in the brain that inhibits the outflow of motor activity, and so they can't move. And so imagine you're 15 years old and you're having your first episode of sleep paralysis because you're a narcoleptic, and it's Tuesday morning, your alarm goes off, and you go, oh, my God, I've got to get up. I've got to go to school, and because I've got to get there early, I've got to really rush right now. And you just woke up out of a dream, though. And so if you're a narcoleptic, you've got sleep paralysis. But you don't know that. You just go up, you just go and get out of bed, right?
Right.
So what happens? Well, if you're a narcoleptic, and this is where doctors don't like to discuss this, or most doctors don't even know it, frankly.
Right.
The person has their first out-of-body experience. I mean, out-of-body experience is a real thing. And here's a real condition that 3 million Americans have. And guess what? If you go into a narcolepsy support group before the doctor walks in, this is all they're talking about.
Exactly.
Is their out-of-body experiences. As soon as the doctor walks in, they shut up because they know the doctor's not going to believe it.
Well, the doctor's going to put them on medication.
Right.
That's what the doctor's going to do. I mean, this is really sort of this cyclical thing we're caught up in here around healing, Dr. Dan. That's why I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Yeah.
Is all of us know this. I mean, we could be in the waiting room of any doctor's office and we're chit-chatting, striking up a conversation that we will never have with our doctor.
Right. Exactly. And so the reason I bring this up, this condition and this state of out-of-body experience, is when we started developing this technology, a friend of mine who I started to do sessions with using the technology, he would get on the technology and immediately have an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, oh, this is the best thing in the world for me because I can measure. I mean, we were measuring brain waves and heart rate activity and all sorts of, heart rate variability and skin conductivity, all the kinds of scientific measurements that one would look at related to stress and relaxation and deep meditative states. And now I had something that I couldn't measure scientifically. I had this guy who, because when he would get out of body, he could look at my energy, at the human energy system. And so now I had a direct observer. Now, it's not scientific, right? I can't repeat this. It's not quantitative, but at least I had an observer. And for the next, many, many years, we did over 2,000 sessions together.
Wow.
Okay, where he would watch my energy system during, the use of the Soul Tech Lounge.
Yeah.
And what I learned is really the answer to your question. How do you truly counteract stress?
Yeah.
And it's when you, as what you truly are, which is your energy system, that part that would normally go out of body, when that is distributed throughout all of your body. And this is really important. Most people have that aspect of themselves, that aspect of their energy, only sort of overlapping and involved with the head. And for women, it's the head and upper chest, okay, because women are more, heart-centered than men in general. But to get that throughout all of the body is the biggest difference, because when what you truly are, I'll call it your soul, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. Right.
When
Perfect.
your soul is fully integrated throughout the body, you do not experience stress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And as you identify with that state more and more, and identify with that as what you truly are, that's when the magic really happens in terms of, creativity and inspiration and compassion. And I mean, just a whole wealth of things that you read about that are very positive and what people seek.
Yeah. Now, here, listen, I've shared a little bit of this story before, but this is a really great time to do this, because this is going to lead us into our conversation today about stress. I have an 8-year-old. She calls me Auntie Patty. I love this child. I've known her since she was born, and comes over to the house quite often, comes in. We do kind of cool things together when she comes over. Comes in one day and sees the chair, the Soul Tech Lounge. That's what we're talking about. We're going to give all of you information about this. And she sees it. And I think I may have just gotten up from it, or, something when they came over. And she was here with her mom, and here was her grandma, and came in. And I said, yeah. And she said, can I sit in your chair? And I said, yeah. And I said, as a matter of fact, I'll turn it on. And I think her mom said something like, oh, it's she has such a hard time sleeping at night. I don't want you to do anything, keep her up. And I said, no, I don't think anything will happen. And I said, I'm just going to turn on, and it'll help her relax. And, and a mom would say something like, oh, she's not going to be in that chair more than 3 minutes. That's just not going to happen. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Put her in the chair. We're hanging out here, chit chat, very low. Turned it on very low. And you're going to explain what I mean here too. Turn it on very low. Within 2 minutes, she was sound asleep in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
Sound asleep. And we're looking around, and I said, don't worry about it. I think she's just sleeping. And they kind of looked at each other, and you said, that's impossible. And I said, well, no, I think she is sleeping. And I think that when you experience something like that, of course, I experience it personally, but when you see something like that, that defies all of the patterns that you would use to describe your own behavior, and you see the possibility of changing it, it does sound like a miracle. So can you explain what happened from scientific terms right there, what the chair does, and why would it work so well in a child?
Well, children are more open.
Yeah.
They haven't had time to develop all these beliefs and these defense mechanisms and coping strategies. And as a result, they're more pliable because they're more accepting of what is. Okay, and so it's easier for a child to allow for their soul to literally move throughout all of their body. Okay, that's one aspect of it. The sound and the vibration also have a direct effect on the brain. Okay, to habituate it, and the layered music that we play through the lounge is something that really helps switch off the brain. So my guess is that child was somewhat sleep deprived, and once you put her in the lounge and allowed her to relax in that way, because it induces, as you know, it's not that you can relax in the lounge. The lounge induces that level of profound relaxation. And so what happens is, because she was probably sleep deprived, she just, boom, went right off.
Yeah. Yeah. And kids are excitable. They have fun. So are we as adults. Okay. So, I want to ask you this question about stress. Clearly we're talking about the degree by which people experience this right now. I just talked about it a bit in the last hour, but I want to ask you about what should we do, Dr. Dan, when we feel we're experiencing what we're calling stress? And believe me, I think we're learning that there are many degrees of stress, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about A, how do we recognize it and what we can do about it? Because we now know, right? As a doctor, we have data that says if we stockpile stress, we are not going to be well. Not our bodies, maybe not even mentally. So what do we do? What do we do?
Well, the first thing is change your attitude about stress.
Good idea.
In other words, stress has been labeled as something that's bad for you. And sure, it does produce disease. I mean, let's face it, that's the truth. But don't view stress as being bad. Okay? And I think that it's really important to instead say, you know what? Stress is an opportunity. Okay? I mean, stress is always the result of a belief that you're holding. Okay? And it's a belief that's in your brain. It's usually a belief that when you peel the onion and you get to the core of the belief, almost all our beliefs that produce stress have the same nucleus, the same core. And that is, I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy, I'm undeserving, and it's all about lack of love. Okay, that's the bottom line about every belief. When you really peel the onion and say, what's under that belief? What's under that belief? Okay, so what stress really does for you is it gives you an opportunity to say, what am I thinking about at this moment that I'm experiencing stress? And why do I believe that? What's underneath that belief? What's underneath that belief? And so it gives you a real life opportunity to recognize that, hey, you know what? These are all the stupid beliefs that I've held on to. I mean, we create stress. I mean, I don't care what it is. There certainly can be an external, there's external environmental things that happen, but it's always when those circumstances bump up against your beliefs, that's what triggers stress. So the first thing to do is be more mindful of your feelings, okay? Not what you're thinking. Stay with your feelings, okay? If you could spend more time literally feeling what your body is feeling, that would tip you off sooner that you were in a stressful state, okay? So most people have elevated their level of stress so high that their baseline is stressed, okay? They rarely come down. And so first of all, become more aware of your feelings and do something. Learn some techniques, whether it's breathing or, relaxation exercises or meditation or whatever it is you want to do. Learn to pull your baseline down and then be more mindful of how you're feeling. And then when you do get triggered and you feel that tension, and that will vary to a large extent in everybody, but everybody pretty much knows what their own anxiety feels like, and there really are a host of emotions that are tied to stress. It's not just anxiety. Even depression is a level of anxiety or of stress where you're just suppressing everything. So feel these negative emotional states and ask yourself when you're in that state, what am I thinking about and what's underlying this? What belief is underlying these thoughts and these feelings? And sit with that and say, what's underneath that? What's underneath that? And then as you feel your body in those states, then learn to let that go. Okay? But at the same time, learn that this is all about your beliefs. And do you want to change them or do you want to let those beliefs go? Or if you're going to hold on to them, you're just going to keep experiencing stress.
We're going to take a short break, but before we do, Dr. Dan, I know that I've referred to the Soul Tech Lounge here several times. I know you're getting ready to do a big show and share the technology with the world as well. Folks are going to want to know more about what we're talking about. Can you please let them know the website that's going to help them? Let them know how they can download information, and especially contact information if they want to talk with you more.
Yeah, probably the best site to look at right now is tools2awaken.com. So it's TOOLSTO, tools2awaken, AWAKEN.com. And that has a lot of information that can help people understand about the technology. And there's some contact information if they want to get a hold of us, and I'll certainly respond to those inquiries.
Awesome. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Dr. Dan Cohen about, look, what is it that is going to help us understand not just how to feel our emotions, but how to deal with stress? What is the ultimate treatment? More importantly, the day-to-day that goes on, and you're an adult in this world, and you might be thinking to yourself, yeah, I am under a lot of stress. But imagine now that we're living in a world right now that fear is driving a lot of people. How do we help not just ourselves, but how do we help our family? And why would we want to do this? What's at the other end? What's at the other end of this experience that Dr. Dan Cohen is talking about with the Soul Tech Lounge? All of that to come. We'll be right back. Get into it for 2016. Do you want more prosperity, clarity, energy, and balance in your life? Join Lynn Brown now for one of her amazing workshops, each focusing on a key part of living your best life. For more information and to register for one of these amazing workshops, visit lynnbrownevent.com. That's lynnbrownevent.com. And get into it this 2016 with Lynn Brown. Sky Siegel co-hosts one of today's most popular psychic shows, Angels and Answers with Artie Hoffman, as she communicates healing messages from the spirit world. These messages can be astounding, enlightening, and life-changing. Born with the God-given talent of inner guidance and the amazing ability to heal, Sky has healed thousands of people. Schedule a reading with Sky now. Call 908-500-1474 and visit skyofangels.com.
Do you want to achieve your goals? Do you want to strengthen relationships with others? Do you want to improve your financial status? Colette Marie Steffen is partnering with Mark Kettenbach to bring you an energetic upgrade online experience. Unfold and develop your full potential. Visit energeticupgrade.com today for more information. That's energeticupgrade.com. Get ready to rid yourself of all that is weighing you down and holding you back from living the life you want for yourself. Coming Clean, The Art of Transparency with Catherine Moss is a hit show for women in recovery who are ready to live life on purpose. Tune in and let Catherine help you live your truth one day at a time. Live each Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
How would you like increased health and vitality? How would you like to avoid the onset of disease as well as slow the aging process? This is all possible through a simple, safe, and natural process. Every day we are either moving toward wellness or away from wellness.
Hi, I'm Mary Jane Mack. I'd like to be your partner in achieving optimal health. Contact me now at maryjanemack.com or call 425-392-0659. Visit maryjanemack.com.
Hi, this is Leslie Fontaine. Have you ever said to yourself, what is this mess I'm in? Believe it or not, part of us wants it. We have asked for deeper work, to understand love, to step into our power, to choose differently. Then when we start engineering the circumstances, we want to control how it unfolds. Let's be honest. It's like asking the universe to help you create something, then saying, well, not like that. I want you to do it this way. If you are ready to shift into your best life, visit lesliefontaine.com and let's talk about unfolding all that you want to be, do, and have. You'll find sessions, classes, and audio products to help remove the blocks and move you into your potential. And listen to my show, Sheer Alchemy, on Transformation Talk Radio, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. Absolutely amazing to be connecting with all of you. And I love being able to have Dr. Dan talk about not only his life's work, but what's happening with that. And why are there so many people now that are looking for solutions to give themselves relief? But, before we get back to the conversation, Dr. Dan, please give out the website again and let folks know how they can find out more about the Soul Tech Lounge.
Yeah, the website with the most information is called toolstoawaken.com. So it's TOOLS, tools to awaken, AWAKEN.com.
Awesome. We're talking about stress today, and we're talking about what we might be able to do about it. And the reason that this is so important is the one indicator that we're all discovering is that the degree by which people experience stress on a day-to-day basis is growing. Some people say it's growing exponentially, but it's growing. And it's not growing, for a certain demographic. Remember, remember the demographic was men, right? Used to be men working. That was the high demographic. Now what we're discovering, no, it's not that demographic only. Isn't it a demographic that's really pretty much across the board? And yet the ways to relieve stress are not really working. I mean, drugs and alcohol, that does not work. However, that is really on the rise in the same parallel direction that stress is.
Well, but it's because that's where so many people have gone to because of their stress.
Yeah.
I mean, they've self-medicated with either alcohol or drugs. So, addiction is a major complication of stress, just like, heart disease, cancer, asthma, and so many other, maladaptive behaviors, and accidents. I mean, so much of our problems relate to that simple condition that we call stress.
Yeah. Yeah. So the ultimate treatment, the ultimate way to relieve it. Let's start with sort of like following the breadcrumbs, so to speak.
Okay.
What that means is you follow the breadcrumbs, one leads to the other, and then you ultimately find that something, amazing can work. So take us on a journey with what you've discovered and what some of the stories are that you're hearing about people that have followed the breadcrumbs to find the ultimate treatment.
Well, it's really interesting. Let me start by saying a couple weeks ago, I went to an extremely well-known, on a worldwide level, medical institution to meet with some of their physicians to talk about this. Mm-hmm. And because they want to study it. And it was fascinating because, these are people that you would consider to be the world's experts on stress and its treatments. And the lead doctor, we went out to lunch, and he really became angry because he was so frustrated with the various treatment modalities and their lack of efficacy. And he was just bemoaning the fact that, you give me 100 people with really pathologic stress, and you tell them or try to teach them how to meditate, and maybe you'll get 5 of them that will become effective at it. Mm-hmm. And then, he went on with one technique after another, and he was literally beside himself because of the dismal results. Mm-hmm. And that's why he had me visit them, because what he said was, you've developed a way where you don't have to teach anybody anything. The technology does it to you. Yeah. And he said, and that's what we need, and we especially need it in a drug-free way. Yeah. And that's the key. And so, my goal back 20 years ago when we started this project was, hey, how do you induce profound levels of relaxation? And my thinking was this. We human beings are very, very good at replicating a feeling state, okay? We're not necessarily good at generating it de novo, okay? But we're good at replicating something we already know how to feel. And so if you could induce a state of profound relaxation, then it would be much easier to basically turn it back on again when you needed it, right? Okay, that was the key. That was the key thinking. Yeah. So as a neurologist, I understood the brain, and I understood that, one of the very basic mechanism of the brain that sets our level of tension throughout our system is what we call the vigilance apparatus. Mm-hmm. It's basically, if you think about the brain's most fundamental purpose, it's to keep us alive, right?
Yeah.
Survival instinct, okay? And so what it does is it has a whole host of circuits that are dedicated to looking for potential threat so that you can stay alive, avoid the threats, avoid the danger, okay? And how does the brain do it? The brain does this by using 3 of our sensory mechanisms: vision, hearing, and touch. And they're hierarchical, because I can see danger coming further away. It's further away when I can see it versus hearing it. And if somebody touches me and I have not seen nor heard it, then I have the biggest startle response. Okay? So those are the 3 key sensory mechanisms that are involved in maintaining vigilance to keep an eye out for stress. So what I wanted to do was to say, okay, as a neurologist, I know that I can habituate those senses. And what that means is, if I give those senses a monotonous stimuli, then what the brain will do is to say, hey, you know what? You're no good to me right now for looking for potential danger, because the stimulus that I keep registering is the same, and I know it hasn't produced danger, therefore I can ignore it. So that's how we can turn off the vigilance apparatus. And so when you think about use of the Soltech Lounge, you're in a dark room and your eyes are closed, so vision is gone. We play layered music that you really can't follow, and even though we don't tell you not to listen to it, pretty soon you don't listen to it. When you use your chair, do you hear the music anymore?
No.
Right, of course not.
No.
You tuned it out.
No.
Right?
Yeah,
and
right.
It's not unpleasant, but there's no reason to hear it. Your brain says, I don't need to hear this because there's no potential danger. And the vibration, the pleasant vibrations that you feel that are totally in sync with the music, you don't feel them either. So all the sensory mechanisms that are associated, that support that vigilance apparatus to help you detect danger, it's all gone. They're all turned off. Well, when those things are turned off, the level of tension in your body is gone. Okay? So that was the neurologic trickery that we employed. And we were very pleased with ourselves when we did that. But remember, I told you about my friend who would go out of body and look at the human energy system.
Right.
And so at the same time, I said, okay, we're really pleased with ourselves that we figured out this neurologic thing, and that tricks the body into relaxing. But that was only half the story. The other half was, wow, there's this whole energy system that's happening that has an even more profound effect when that energy is distributed throughout the body. And so after a while, my friend says, hey, you know what? I've been doing you this favor, and I've been staying out of body and looking at you. But I understand the benefits you're deriving, and therefore I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going in body, so sorry, I'm not going to look at your energy anymore because it's more important to me that I stay in body and I do what's been happening to you, because I've watched your energy system transform over the years, and I want to be like that. And that's where you get all sorts of other major benefits that take you way beyond just stress reduction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And, part of this too, maybe we could talk about this a little bit, is, it's hard for some people, Dr. Dan, to get any relief at all. And I want to talk about that for a minute, because when we're talking about this, to have an experience where, in my case, the first time I used the chair, I couldn't remember what I was thinking about before I got in the chair. And what's fascinating about that is that you don't really have an experience where you know what's happening. This is what I love about it. It's because there's no effort whatsoever that you have to do at all. And yet, it is something that combines multiple senses, right? At the same time. It's not just a physicality. There's a multiple of senses that are activated or deactivated, maybe is a better word.
It is. That's a better word.
Better word. So that when all is said and done, you have a new sense of freedom and you don't even know what it is. That's me talking now. It's not like you're like, wait a minute, that just happened. No, it's like you get up and you go about your day and you have an amazing day. So when I said before, what's the end game? That's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how lives have been changed. Now, I know we did other shows where we've had folks come on, but can we talk for a minute on how lives change through the process? Yeah.
Yeah. Essentially, and this is, it's one thing to learn how to relax, and I think a lot of lives change from that alone. Okay, because for a lot of people, that's a big deal. Okay, and that's a game changer. But I agree with you. I think that's the minor benefit, even though for most people it's very major. I think that's step one. Step two is when that which is truly you, and again, this is more spiritually oriented, but that aspect, that energetic aspect of you, when you embody that, and you can feel that, okay, when that happens again and again and again, you start to know, that, oh, whoa, okay, this is an entirely different me, and other people will start saying you're not the same person, that you were, and you'll know that that's very true, because you'll know you're not the same person. And when that happens, that's a major shift in the way in which you interact with the world, because all of a sudden your presence is much different. The presence of what you truly are is now manifested throughout the body, And when you allow that to just issue forth, it's a different game. You're not operating anymore from the head. You're not thinking about what you're saying. What you're saying literally just produces words through the brain, and everything comes out. But you're no longer working the machinery from a willful state of being, from an ego state of being. Instead, it's what you truly are is operating this, and it is effortless. Okay, because it's what you truly are.
The whole idea of having an experience that de-stresses you opens up the door for many things. And, let's kind of talk about what the list of those things are. First of all, we're talking about creativity and imagination, definitely. But we're also talking about other things. We've had shows where we've talked about the healing potential that people have shared and experienced. And even if what happens is you get relief from not thinking about your illness, right? That's part of the relief. But you're hearing stories every day from people and what their experiences are. I wonder if you could give us a couple of examples. I know the last time we were on, we talked about, how the Soul Tech Lounge is used for people with addictions. Give us a couple of insights on some of the folks and some of the stories that they've been telling you.
Well, I think the most. I mean, I can't go into the health stuff simply because we're not positioning this as a medical product. We're not taking it that way. Right. We're stress is not considered a medical condition, and so we can speak to that. It's considered a lay issue, and so we don't need any kind of regulatory work for that. And so that's all good. So there are a lot of people who believe, as do I, that if you embody your spiritual self, then that evokes a level of healing. But we can't, that's about all I can say, to that aspect. To me, I think that what gives me the greatest gratification are the emotional changes.
Yeah.
When you see people that are distraught for whatever reason, and they get on this technology, and they're shown a deeper understanding, and then they come to a greater realization. To me, that's I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. That's what gives me the greatest pleasure.
Yeah, and that is transformative. It's transformative for people. Yeah. I mean, in the day-to-day that we go through, whether you're thinking about this and you have a stressful job, or maybe there is something going on in your life. I mean, clearly, we're looking at one of the highest divorce rate statistics we've seen in a really long time. There are things that go on, and we call it life. There are also joyful things that go on, and we call them life. And I think what we're talking about here is how can we get some assistance tipping the scales towards joy?
Well, that's, joy is just an expression of love. And when we talk about, what we truly are, and having that spiritual essence move throughout all of us, that's what it produces, and in a sense, if you look at what I'll just call that soul versus ego, okay, and we either live, we're very binary. We either live from an ego-based or a soul-based perspective, okay? And in our society, most people, unfortunately, live in an ego-based manner. And when you exist in a soul-based manner, when that is throughout the body, that's love and truth. And that that doesn't mix with all the negativity. So the negativity has to leave. Okay? I mean, it's really quite this simple. And so when I get somebody on the chair that has a bunch of pent-up emotional garbage that they've been holding, it's immediately expressed. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I introduce people to the chair, I have a big box of tissue, right by it, because when somebody has a lot of emotional issues, the tears just flow. I mean, the release just, happens in a very major way. And because the admixture of what we truly are, our spiritual self, it literally causes the release of all of that other stuff. And it comes into your conscious awareness. You can understand it better, but you're also releasing it from your body. So all of that toxicity that affects the body in terms of all that negative emotional stuff gets released.
And the idea of releasing it gives us more freedom and open space for new levels of awareness and new gateways to heal if that's what we choose. But the simple idea of reducing stress in our lives, simple albeit, but the notion of having an experience where less stress is what we experience, I think that's really the profound gift that we're talking about here today.
Yes. Well, and I think I think it's one step further. When you take it further and you allow that to develop more completely, as you've been doing, with your experiences, you reach a new level of functioning that is different for you, right? And that, to me, and that's what's going to change the world. When we all start functioning a whole lot differently. I mean, if I could give this to every political leader in the world, to me, it would be on their doorstep tomorrow.
I'm kind of wishing that you would.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, they wouldn't take it.
Yeah, I'm kind of wishing you'd start right here. Kinda.
Yeah, right. I'm with you.
Yeah, just kind of doing it right here. Thank you for today's show. I wanted you to please share the information about how people can find out more. And then I'd love to ask you what your personal message is for all of us today. Thank you, Dr. Dan, for all that you do.
Oh, you're very welcome, Pat. And it's a pleasure being here. Best way to find out more information is to go to toolstoawaken.com, and TOOLSTO Awaken, AWAKEN.com. And my personal message would be, just simply allow what you truly are to manifest throughout all of you. And just be yourself. Be what you truly are.
Wow, I love it. Thank you. Dr. Dan Cohen, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning us in and turning us on. And if you've missed any part of this today, for sure, you can listen again later on today. We always replay our shows. And if you want to find out more about this and download today's show, you can go to the drpatshow.com, or you can go to transformationtalkradio.com. For those of you out there, you can download our app and take us with you wherever you go. Thank you, Benny, for pushing all the right buttons today. And as I said before, much information if you go to Dr. Dan's site, along with some fabulous books he's written as well. I love talking about the ego. We'll see you next time.
Come
preceding audio was via a Skype call.